Here we have an inequality, and it's looking like it's a little bit more involved, but eventually it's going to be reduced to our basic inequality, just like we've been working with. So let's see what we have here. We have negative 9w plus 7 times w times the quantity w minus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 28. Okay, so I look at this problem and my eyes should start focusing in on the fact that I have this distribution here. I have a multiplication. I have a variable inside my parentheses, and I have another term that has a variable in it. So let's go ahead and distribute out both of these. So I'm going to get rid of my parentheses by doing the distribution. So I have negative 9w, and 7 times w is plus 7w, and 7 times a negative 2 gives me a negative minus 14, and that's greater than or equal to negative 28. Okay, so just like with solving equations, with inequalities I try to simplify as much as I can on either side of the inequality sign before I start moving things back and forth. So if I look here, I have a negative 9w and a 7w, so these two can be combined. So I'm going to go ahead, negative 9w plus 7w gives me a negative 2w minus 14 is greater than or equal to negative 28, right? So I'm almost there. I look to see, well, I only have one term that contains my variable now, and that's this negative 2w, right? Negative 2w, so I want to get rid of this minus 14 on the left side. So in order to get rid of it, because I'm subtracting, I add it to both sides. And just so this doesn't look confusing, this was a minus, that was a negative 28 there, right? So I'm adding 14 to both sides. The 14 on the left cancels, so I have a negative 2w is greater than or equal to negative 28 plus 14 just simply gives me a negative 14. Okay? Almost there. So let's take a look. Okay, I have my term with my variable in it, and that would be my w here. So I want to isolate that w. So I say, well, what am I doing to that w? I'm not subtracting 2. I'm multiplying it by a negative 2, right? Because it was just a negative 2w. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2, divide both sides by negative 2. Now remember, because I'm dividing by a negative number, I have to switch my inequality sign. I have to flip it before I go ahead and do everything else. Now I can just do the math. My negative 2's cancel to a 1. I get a 1w, and I have a negative 14 divided by a negative 2, which is a positive 7. Now remember, the reason I switched my inequality sign was because I divided by a negative number. Okay, so that's my answer. Let's try another one. Here we have 6w minus 28 is less than or equal to negative 5 times the quantity 2 minus 3w. Okay, so I look at either side and I can simplify the right side, right? I have this distribution that I can do and get rid of my parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and write down what I had before. 6w minus 28 is less than or equal to, when I take my negative 5 and I multiply it by a positive 2, I get a negative 10. And when I take negative 5, multiply it by a negative 3w, I get a positive 15w. Okay, so now I can't simplify anything on either side any further, so I want to start collecting my variables. And I'm going to go ahead and collect my variables on my left. So I have a 6w over here, and I have a 15w over on the right side. And since it's positive, I want to subtract it to make it 0. So I'm going to subtract 15w from both sides. My 15w's cancel. 6w minus 15w is simply negative 9w. Minus 28 is less than or equal to negative 10. All right. Notice how the inequality is getting a little bit simpler. It looks a little bit nicer, right? And I take a look. So now I only have one term that contains my variable, and that's this negative 9w. So what am I doing to it? I'm subtracting 28, so I need to do the opposite and add 28 to it. So I have negative 9w. My 28's cancel is less than or equal to positive 18. Negative 10 plus 28 is positive 18. I'm almost there, so I want to isolate my w, and what am I doing to it? I have a negative 9. Negative 9 is my coefficient. I'm not adding, right, and multiplying by negative 9, so I need to do the opposite, which is divide by negative 9. But remember, because I'm dividing by a negative number, I have to switch my inequality sign. Now I can go ahead and do the math. My negative 9 divided by negative 9 cancels out to give me a 1w, and my 18 divided by a negative 9 gives me a negative 2. So my answer is w is greater than or equal to negative 2.